G'day everyone and welcome back to the shed. Today we're just looking at my international doors and I've done a bit of blasting on them. This one's the driver's door that came off my original cab, so it's weathered a bit, it's a bit sad. The one that came with my replacement cab was actually broken in the frame and it's fractured where the top hinge mounts in there. And so I decided it would be an easier repair to fix this one rather than the other one. But I've got a bit of rust. I've hit it with the blaster and I've got sections here, mainly where the seal sits, and it's gone rusty behind there. But I'll just work you through what I'm planning on doing. This one here, I could do it two ways. I'll probably cut it out and just put a little patch in there, weld around it and re-drill the hole for the seal. I've also got right beside it, there's a crack on a spot weld where the hinge frame's gone in there. So there's a little crack there and the top hinge has got the same thing as well, I think. Just up in there, there's some fatigue cracks where the bracket for the top hinge goes in there. So we're going to have to weld those up and get them right. Working our way back around, another one of these patches that you could go either way with just a patch put on there and a hole drilled, or we could probably sit there and weld it up, but I definitely think this one here, I'll grind it out. And the easy repair for this sort of stuff is just poke the die grinder in there with a burr on the edge and open it up. Get a piece of metal sitting in there and run around it with the welder. We've also got this spot here where it's rusted from the outside in, and this is where moisture has been sitting behind the door seal and it's sort of grown, it's lifted the paint up, the rust's got in there and it's walked up underneath the paint all the way around this area. So I'm going to make a little patch with the fold in it, and then I'll spread the end of it there. I'll use the stretcher to make it curl around the corner, and then I can get a good weld. Come back in again. I can get a good weld around this edge here, but once I've got it to the shape, and the patch will probably be about this big, and it's sitting on this edge here and sitting on that edge there, it's not very hard to just roll this edge around the corner and then put a little weld around the corner there and grind it off smooth, and that'll make a fill-free repair because it'll just grind up and be perfect. So working along, same thing in here. This patch is going to have to come up into here and it's going to have to roll around this edge in there as well. Little one just in there, could just go either way, weld it up and re-drill it, and I probably will do that one on that one because the damage is just basically right on this corner, and that one there's much the same, but we'll definitely need a patch in this end corner on here. And I think there is another patch. It's going to be tricky for the camera to see it though. The black primer's not going to help us. There's a spot down here, and I lifted all this edge up to blast in here because it was lifting this lip and it was actually swelling in there. But there's a spot in there where it's actually lost a piece of the frame. And the same thing again, I can cut that out and get a weld in there quite easily from one side. But I will have to open this edge out a bit more, and I'll use a sharp-edged burr and just cut the edge off with a die grinder, get the piece out, and then fit a new patch in there and just be able to weld that in there and smooth it off. And with the belt sander, I can just sand it smooth, prime it up again, and then I'm ready to just crimp it up. So looking around some of the other things, I've got these Toolbox doors that go on the cab. Now the cab had a colour change in the past. It was originally a blue and yellow cab and it had been painted white, but they'd done it more or less as a closed door respray with these Toolbox doors, so the insides of these were still blue. One of my real pet hates is chips that show another colour through. So the inside area is quite prone to stuff in the toolboxes banging into you and things like that, causing paint chips. So I've blasted it and I'll paint it white off the primer sort of thing. So if we get any chips, it's only going to show primer through. And we've got much the same problems as the door. We've got a part of the frame rusted away in this one here. So that's going to be a new patch having to be welded into there. And these doors are a little bit strange how they're made. They actually have got the frame spot welded to the outside of the skin and no spot welds through the crimp on the inside. So I've got a spot weld there I can see. I suspect there'll be one somewhere in this rusted away area, and there's another one there where the frame joins. So I can't see any real damage to the outside skin. There's no scale or anything on the inside of the frame there. So I'm thinking it's going to be the same thing. Die grinder, break the edge. Well, I can actually go all the way to the edge here and use that seam there, and then just put a weld along here and a weld down the side, and that'll tidy that up. So that's pretty easy. I've got a dash rail, and because I've got two cabs, I picked the best looking one, But this one came out of my original cab, and the cab's been in a major accident at some stage in its life, like long before I wound up with it. And I start blasting away somewhere in this area in here, just there, and it's got body filler in it. So someone sat there and tapped a dent out and put a little skim of filler in there. So I've got to tidy that up a bit. We've also got a spot on the end where there's a bit of a crease in it that I'll have to repair, and this hole up the top needs a bit of a repair on there. But the other dash rail, and bear in mind you can't see this very well in the truck, this actually sits at the front of the dash behind the windscreen, and these slots are the mist vents for the windscreen. So it probably wouldn't have mattered. I could have used the other one, but the other one was quite scaly rusty, and I just didn't like it. I think once I blasted it, it would have blown a few holes in it. So this is the best way to go forward from that. This is basically the cover for the windscreen plenum. So the two wiper arms coming through there on their pivots, and it had been repainted a couple of times. So there was the original paint and 2 repaints on top of that. There's a couple of little dents in it that just really want a bit of a tidy up, so I gave that a quick blast as well, just so that we can bring it up to speed. Now, I'm doing this one a little bit differently. This is just an etch primer. This is good old Wattle Super Etch. This one's in a black. This is a really good product, and you can put it under acrylics, you can put it under 2-packs. It just seems to be an all-round useful product. So I'm using it on this one. I'm doing it a little bit cheaper job. I'm using cheaper materials all the way through to bring the cost down on it. And this is a good basis for that. And the same thing again, if we do a big filler area, we can put it over the top of it and then put a high build on top of that, just the same as we would with an epoxy primer normally. But this is just the way I've gone on this particular job. So I'll tie this in with another video we're doing with the truck cab, and we'll talk more about the step-by-step process of the paint. So yeah. Okay guys, thanks for watching. We'll catch you next time.